so Nvidia had some actually they had a really exciting keynote as far as I'm concerned. They announced a whole lot of stuff and we're only going to touch on it a little bit,
Hmm.
but they didn't really cover anything too exciting for the desktop segment or mobile segment. It was really more like cutting edge technology for servers and AI and stuff like that. But they did announce a new GPU architecture known as Hopper, and this is going to follow up.
Sorry,
What's that?
sorry. Just
All
Hopper. It
right.
just kind of reminded me of like, wow, um, we're making so much money. We don't have to pay for any marketing anymore. We can just call whatever the heck we want.
Yeah, they could. They could. I mean, maybe it has some significance. I really don't know. No, I think
It probably
their
stands
naming
for
scheme, their
something.
code names usually do have some significance. But this new architecture consists of over 80 billion transistors. It's going to be built on TSMC's 4N process, and it is going to contain over 2.5 times the number of CUDA cores of the Ampere-based A100 GPU. Uh,
Wow.
and and of course, being the time frame, it will be on PCIe Gen 5. So yeah, this is a big leap forward over Ampere. It seems like CUDA cores can't really be compared generation to generation because there's usually some significant changes. So the number alone, it probably gives us some indicator of the performance capabilities, but it's not like a guarantee that it's 2.5 times the number of cores means 2.5 times more performance. And just to reiterate, this is like high-end server and AI-based computing. So this isn't like the desktop GPU based on this is going to be 2.5 times as many cores. Not necessarily. This is really just at the very tip of the iceberg what NVIDIA is doing, the highest end hardware that they're working on right now. Um, so that's the new GPU architecture. And in addition to Hopper, NVIDIA is also set to release an ARM-based CPU codenamed Grace. And they've talked about this in the past year or
I heard
so,
about that.
featuring 72 cores. But they added to that saying that it is going to be an MXM or multi-chip package and doubling the core count to 144 cores in full. So these are also aimed at AI computing in NVIDIA's DGX supercomputers, supporting LPDDR5X memory. And with this new hardware, NVIDIA aims to take aim at market share in the AI and metaverse focused future. So both of these technologies are probably not something you're going to see in the hands of like a consumer, but really just like large scale computing for the near future at least. So, all this technology will end up trickling down, and that GPU architecture will probably end up seeing in a mainstream form. But in any event, it seems like NVIDIA is really strong into AI right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if like the projects they're working on and the future architectures have AI assisting in developing those.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting that, I mean, so the acquisition of ARM failed with Nvidia, right? So Nvidia's like, yeah, you
Hmm.
know what? We don't need them anyway. We'll just make our own.
Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
that was just
really
formality. We had our own plans anyway.
well. The thing
Or maybe
is,
they're trying to get rid of competition.
With the ARM-based CPUs, what's kind of exciting to me is like we see Apple using ARM-based CPUs in the new MacBooks. New MacBooks probably like a year or two on the market now,
Mm-hmm.
but they've just announced like that it's also multi-chip capable, and the new Mac Studio desktop is going to have this crazy processor and be crazy powerful and energy efficient. So it's really cool if NVIDIA is going to be working on something like that that they can market against Apple for maybe not Mac-based desktops, but for someone else that's using either Linux or Windows. I think that would be really cool because I'm sure if anyone can make super efficient ARM-based processors that are super powerful, it's going to be NVIDIA.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they've been doing this a long time, and they've obviously really like got a lot of engineering when it comes to chip architecture, especially on chips with hundreds of cores, which is what a GPU is. So
Right.
that's kind of seems like the way the world's going these days. It doesn't really seem like we're going to monolithic cores anymore. We're kind of going in chiplets and stuff like that. I mean, it makes sense. Manufacturing costs are a lot less, so that's what usually drives things. price and performance value. But it'll be interesting since we can't really get any of this stuff for like a couple of years at least, because what eventually hits the server market always ends up coming to us eventually.
Yeah, I think. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Vega.
No, finish what you're going to say, Andrew.
I was just going to say, I think Apple's M1 chips are taking a lot of market share kind of slowly, but once that becomes clear that they're on like this trajectory of just taking over a lot of desktop and laptop based systems, that I think that will probably be right around the time Nvidia's like, oh yeah, by the way, here's this that we're also marketing towards like general users and studios. And given that Apple has sort of established a price point of several $1,000s and people seem to say, yeah, that's totally fine, Nvidia can totally be like, all right, we'll match that price and give you more performance. So here you go.
Yeah, exactly. And it's I don't know, man. It's kind of like the perfect. I'll talk about this later at the last topic of the podcast, but it's basically the perfect storm that's caused the prices to go up. All right, yeah, go ahead, Vega.
So what the use cases for what Nvidia is trying to do with the Hopper GPUs and stuff like that really is for the healthcare industry, robotics, quantum computing, data science, and you mentioned like AI metaverse type places or I guess situations. It's really impressive how far they have come. Like looking at, we're on HBM3 now. We're on HBM3 now.
That's what they're saying.
Weren't we just on HBM2 and 2E, and now we're on 3?
Yeah.
Man, things are moving fast.
Yes. So the big thing with everything that basically Nvidia said is just like large scale computing, putting this stuff into nodes, into servers, into multi-processor setups. So like, it's kind of however much computing you want to be able to afford, you can just build these supercomputers basically.
And they could be customized. So, what our ITX build would be for the at-home individual, we could have an ITX build for a hospital, but it's basically this mini supercomputer to be able to handle whatever instructions, data sets, whatever they may have. Now, the NVIDIA H100 has a 700 watt TDP in that one package.
Is that what it says?
That's crazy.
Only 700
I think
watts?
part of that. I mean, HBM uses a good amount of power, it seems.
Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't think that's. It does seem kind of high considering that this is going to be potentially in like a room full of these things. It's not just going to be like one unit.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's two of them. Two at 350 watts paired together at 700 watts.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
That makes more sense. So it's two
Yeah,
monolithic.
the GH100. Yeah, with 80 billion transistors, die size, 814 millimeter. Crud.
Well, so it's this big. That's huge.
Yeah, I think they were saying it's like as big as like an actual 3090 card.
Okay, well, at 710 watts, that's going to be, you can just cool that passively if it's that big of a die size.
Put your hand on it. And the memory bus is 5120. 5,120 bit memory bus.
So 5 terabit.
Yeah, so like everybody's like, oh, we're up to one terabit in memory bandwidth on our what was it, the Radeon 7, right? Radeon 7 could do it. The 3090 could do it, but yeah, that's amazing. And the amount of transistors is ridiculous. I still have one of the old school Nvidia cards with just a passive heatsink that's probably got like 10 million transistors or something like that, or maybe even less than that.
Yeah.
I'd say they're kind of cheating.
Yeah,
though.
I mean,
they
the
made it
scale of
physically
it's
bigger.
insane.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's part of it, but it's definitely an accomplishment and taking this technology to the next level. I don't really see them having too much competition in this space at this time.
No, I don't either. I agree with that. I don't. I don't see them having any competition in this space. This is some like heavy compute power or capability that a business or major conglomerate
corporation.
can own. Yeah. So that's some serious power, and the world is going to more of an AI driven ecosystem. So
Yeah.
the more businesses are going to start to have these small to mid scale, maybe even large, data mindsets or servers, supercomputers, whatever we want to call it. It's actually mind boggling.
And
Yeah, it really is. The applications for AI are from the simplest to the most complex.
yes.
There's basically no business that couldn't be aided in some way by AI.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that 10 years from now, this will be standard, issue in your credit card or something. Like, the technology will have gotten so small and compact and efficient that it just fits in the palm of your hand.
What's a credit card, man? Isn't it the chip that's implanted in my retina that I use to check out?
And if you don't have one, you can't buy or sell or trade, right? You have the mark of the beast.
Oh man.
Anyways. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool, also scary at the same time, because you gotta also remember a lot of these AI programs, the programmers don't actually know what it's doing. They just tell it to do it and it programs itself, which is it saves a lot of time, right? But I would say one of the most exciting things is that all this is going to become miniaturized eventually. Or miniaturized, more efficient, whatever you want to call it. It's going to progress to where, so our phones are, several hundred times more powerful than the computers that sent the rocket to the moon in 1969. And those computers took up several amps, right? Our phones take up mere watts, and it's several hundred times more. So if you think about that in only 50, 60, 70 years, imagine what's going to happen in the next 50, 60, 70 years. And technology like this is just like mind-boggling. Like, I remember in high school when I had a 2 gigabyte hard drive, 2 gigabyte USB drive in high school. It was like $60. I was like, yeah, this is so much storage. I'm never gonna use this ever. Yeah, like one clip, one TechTorrent podcast clips is like what, 40 gigabytes. So
something like that.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool stuff, man. So that was from GTC 2022, and that's more stuff that you can't get yet, but it's really exciting to see what's gonna happen, what's coming down the line. Andrew, do you have anything else on that?
No, I mean, just to wrap it up,
Yeah.
I think it's really an exciting time just because it's like this cutting edge technology, it already feels like we're talking about the future, but it's here now. It's what Nvidia is working on. It's probably what Nvidia has been using for the past few years internally to develop the next generation. So yeah, I mean, whether or not we're talking about supercomputers or personal computers, it seems like just everything that's coming out in the next few years is such a leap forward in what we're actually capable of doing. I think is really exciting. And I mean, it might be scary because it opens so many possibilities that we just can't even predict the different scenarios this can be applied with. But for me, it's I'm just super excited to see what comes next.